Okay, a bit of a response to Warren Smith and how the Destiny, how Destiny critiqued one of Warren Smith's videos in a way that, only Destiny can kind of say something, so that you're sitting there like, okay, are you playing dumb? Because that's of course the issue with that. Always Destiny has been doing since I heard of him probably about 5-6 years ago, and he would pop up here and there on streams or something as what at the time was referred to as a debate me bro, and it was always very wordy with very little substance, and it was because he didn't know what he was talking about, and he would typically look stuff up on Wikipedia on the fly. He's one of these people who simply will not engage with the right to find out what the right knows, because like most people who are left of center, he's actually a type of middle-class white bigot who thinks he's better than other whites. This is a really important thing I had touched on a moment ago about gender identification and deracination. Note who's the enemy of the gender people. It's always this idea of this amorphous white villain that they're always worried about is doing something to them, oppressing them, suppressing their identity, stuff like that. Now, what it really is that they're being held to certain standards of behavior that they know they see other ethnic minorities, or they see ethnic minorities maybe not necessarily held to such a high standard. And of course they're upset. It's unfair. And they're like, hey, I'm a little but that's okay. And now they don't really get, yes, among whites, being a little retarded people are like, hey, don't mess with the retard. His life's already hard enough. He's a fucking retard. Come on, be cool. Black people are real rough on one another when they're young, as actually everybody got to see with the Donald Trump thing recently. All these black people making fun of this handicapped little boy, and then who gives a black boy joy? The golden president. Oh yeah, saving us all. Anyway, so the whole thing that ends up being the deal with the sports thing that I want to make sure to get into is this is a field that is decided on. All of these organizations that have been like, no, it's cool, like he's like not really a dude, he says so. Okay, there's a whole realm of trainers, and especially men, who they really don't, they're not fooled by this. They know this has something to do with the weird political aspect of sports organizations and hobbyist groups like that, because you have to market a lot of the competitions. And so in marketing the competitions, you have to have these competitions on various platforms or on various channels. Probably you're going to see more and more and more often as the major legacy media starts to die, that more and more people are going to be like, oh no, we don't allow men to compete against women. Like the weightlifting division, that was a huge deal, because that's an area that I in particularly was follow. As I was one of those people in the early days about kettlebells and stuff and doing that kind of thing. Because I was into alternative medicine and traditional Chinese medicine and massage therapy and stuff like that. So I was the real thing on the left, but I knew I was trying to figure out what was the science that I was dealing with, only to find out that martial arts is good, but boxing is a science. I'll leave that at that. Anyway, This whole, that's another realm. The boxing coaches just weren't having it at all. The boxing coaches were just like, no, that is a man. And that was it. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no, oh, but he's like taking hella estro and blah, blah, blah. You know, so he's taking what fundamentally is a performance dampener. He's, you know, and that's the big deal, is he's taking a performance dampener. That because testosterone is a performance enhancing drug in every realm, and that's the thing, in every realm. So it'll actually help you, and you'll, because of testosterone helping alleviate the effects of cortisol, you end up actually even having a slight sort of feeling of not feeling foggy-headed in a way when the testosterone is boosted. And so it's one of those things that it's like, that's why it has so much the effect that it does have on people, you know, almost making them addicted to it when they are using it at unnatural levels. Everyone in the realm of fitness understands gear to some degree, and because of this is why none of this was working. Testosterone, gear, artificial testosterone. Everybody understands this. That was never my bag. Never. That was never my bag. That's why I'm taking Tonkat Ali and stuff like that now, because I'm getting older. Got to keep up the T, and I could feel it. I could actually feel the difference when I take stuff like that, T boosters, natural T boosters. I actually feel more aggressive, faster. I have an ease of thinking, like I enter the flow state easily at work, stuff like that. So so Destiny doesn't understand any of this from experience. I understand this from training people and being in that whole realm, and also listening to a lot of these people who would go through the science, the latest science on all this. So there is no realm that there is a thing that you can identify as gender. There's no measurement for it. There's no actual realm of knowledge that it exists in, really, outside of language, or as a euphemism, and for sexual identity. Now, the thing that's really important is this idea of like, oh, well, no, there's science and da-da-da that says, and it's like, no. The tendino-ligamental structure, the bone structure, the actual density of bones, the actual capacity for proprioception, that's where you are in space. All of this is different. And it's because, and this is the part that gets me, is because the ability to give birth is so imperative to a Homo sapien. Of course, you're going to have vastly different structures. And it's just not even, just the Q angle alone and walking through the ramifications of that and what it does just to the whole tendino-ligamental system of the lower half of the body. And then where adipose tissue is stored. It just, all of these things are they're teleological. So Neil deGrasse-Tyson was just a bullshitting N-word when he was doing all that. And he's doing it just like Sacha Baron Cohen, because at some point he fucked up. With Sacha Baron Cohen, everything he's ever done is offensive to the left throughout his entire career. So he had to make up for it. And so he was a bitch about it. And went after Giuliani, and then he went after Myanmar, saying, hey, you need to let all these Muslims move into Myanmar. That's its own thing that I was keeping up on, because I keep up on who fucked up and how are they paying back Globo Chomo. Then there's that. The inordinate likelihood of chomoery and violence towards women among men who like putting on women's clothes. Once you know, you know. And the best person to talk to about this would be Andy No. Andy No keeps the tabs on this. He goes through the stories. That just straight up. He's the person. He's been keeping tabs on all this. This is why the commies hate him, because they worship themselves, and because they worship themselves, and they're a gang of people who worship themselves. They have to. They're like a gang. They're like a community that is like a gang, because to them, they see the rest of society as people who won't worship them. and it's because society is bad. When it's the mentality, the Gnostic thinking of I'm like some kind of deity, it naturally comes to society then is a lower realm than me. That is just the natural thing that tends to happen. With Christianity, long since rebuked this and everything, realizing like, no, this is absolutely quote unquote pride. That's why the story is there. That's why there's this understanding of, no, that's what will make you fall, is you think you're above your station in the order of things. They don't like that concept whatsoever. This is also why they don't believe in achievement. As now, we just found out from the lawsuit that is now happening in California against the University of California system for that kid who Google hired that got rejected from 16 schools, even though he had a 1590 on the SAT. So he's a fucking genius, and he's somehow rejected from 16 universities. If I remember correctly, the entire thing with California is like shortly after I think I moved out of there, or while I was still there, just before I moved, they had passed a law that if you graduate at a certain level of achievement, there's a guaranteed seat in a state college or university. And so it's kind of amazing now to see how this is starting to become. So at first, when a lot of this was going on 10, 12 years ago, the 2010s, when the left started getting crazy on Tumblr, I was old enough that I was like, okay, I have a feeling this is going to get quite a bit worse, but the only ways it could get worse, it would be actually almost a little comically stupid. I mean, because these people would have to start kind of embracing like a Gnostic mentality about themselves. And, there's no indication that these people say do, because if you're embracing some kind of, Gnostic, I am God thing, 90s person, alternative lifestyle guy, you would learn about it and try to emulate the ancient methods and ways, of the Gnostics and stuff. And so that's not what they were doing. This was just self-worship, and I'm thinking that probably in conversations you have with people of a variety of different ages, you've even picked up on like this sort of, well, but I can't be wrong, I'm me, kind of thing. That is more, you hear this a lot more than when I was younger, where when I was younger, you could still be dressed down by somebody who was older or a superior in some way, and you did have to accept it, because those were the cards you were given, and you were a fucking man, so you have to accept that. I remember my teacher, he used to say, well, every once in a while I'd bring something up, and he would be sitting there, and he's like, boy, you sure got a lot of time on your hands. I'm like, and I knew it was coming. And he goes, didn't you pay me for my time? And I was like, youch. So that, because that's how you learn. That's when you train under somebody in something, that's how you learn. That's how you get your belt. And It's not. It wasn't supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be training. Because you're training for when life is not good. So a lot of that mentality, I realized, these cats on the left, they've never dealt with that. They're not built for, not even Cuban links. They're not even built for knockoff links. I mean, like something that you get like on a street corner in the Tenderloin, like, no, it's real gold, man, So I like how you did see how this went down in your debate. You did see it. You noticed, I could tell the look on your face. You were realizing you were boggled by the lack of rationality. The fact that it was that what you're thinking is, this is supposed to be a preeminent scientist. He's supposed to present like, well, I think this very controversial thing, and here's my evidence. Like you might even, you were probably really young. You might remember the Smartest Man in the World. Remember that game show? What was that? Comedian, what was it? He was in the, not Bernie. Oh, Jesus. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the guy, Bueller. So that comedian, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Everyone's going to pop it in the comments. But there was a point at which he brought up, he had what at the time was, everyone thought this is a really fringe idea, and that he was like the smartest man on television, and he had this idea he was one of these intelligent design guys. But at the time, everyone wanted, okay, so why? Why do you think this? Like, and everyone was cool. Like, why would you believe that? Why would you think that that's plausible? You were a Harvard professor or something like that, all this stuff. And so the thing now that you don't need to, now people just don't even do that. The left has gotten to this point that they're like, I have thus made a proclamation. Thus spake Zarathustra. I'm destiny. Don't you know, bro? I look things up I look up studies. Because of course that makes sense to really, to people who want to look smart. They would look up studies. It's like, okay, so you've looked up, sources that disagree with your point of view, right? Well, no. Of course he hasn't done that. Why would he do that? That's for people who don't understand how to debate me, bro. He's destiny, god of debates. Now, also, I just want to get into this one issue kind of about that. Destiny pretty much always kind of loses debates. Like, there's a level of intelligence that they're just kind of like, oh God, like, really? Fucking destiny? Now, one of the things I want to posit here is a LAN party. I don't know what the fuck that is. I didn't have one. I don't know what the fuck that is. LAN party. Now, he probably knows, has set them up. He remembers a whole era of time of LAN parties. He could look back at the days of him and his OG LAN honies, at the LAN party or whatever, There's probably all kinds of stuff about video games. And if I was to say, oh yeah, I scored lots of dunks in this in COG, or whatever, that he would be like, you don't get dunks in that video game. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, because it would be clear I don't have the field of knowledge from that field. Well, this is something that keeps coming up with the left on the whole gender thing, is that all they do to look smart inevitably is start saying the word intersex, which what you do is you go, wait a second, are you referring to hermaphrodites? Man, you talking about them Hermaphrodite. Stay away from the Hermaphrodite. That's an old song. People really have to know, like, their fucking black culture to know that one. That's an old song that, that they don't allow you to play on the BBC anymore. It probably never could. But anyway, they don't play that on Jamaica One, So, a dance hall classic, never played on the radio. So, having that knowledge from a specific field, that was like some Stefan Molyneux brought up a long time ago, that he's like, you can't know everything. That's why you have, I have guests who then can explain from a very specific field of knowledge what their point of view is, and really often kind of even what we're dealing with as a phenomenon. And so, but without that specific field of knowledge, you just can't. There's nothing there. And the best thing a person can do when they don't have that specific field of knowledge is ask somebody to teach them about it. But that takes a lot of humility. Humility is the opposite of pride, and the left are gods. They're human gods. So they don't need to get taught by people. I'm thinking now that you, as somebody who started to run into the culture of the left as a teacher, that you're kind of like, what? I've seen that. I've seen a behavior like that before. And that eventually it becomes, the phenomenal universe, events that definitely happened did not happen, in fact, because they couldn't have, because I believe something and I'm God. You actually had an interview with a man who he really went through that process and fell apart right in front of you. And that eventually he did what they all do. He starts making jokes, he starts bullshitting, he tries to derail it because he can't believe he could be wrong. And that's the beginning of where it all falls apart. That people unravel after that. So I just want to kind of bring all this up because it's just something that, like, you're one of these people who I'm like, no. There's a lot of people like you and me that are like you, that are still charitable. You still have hope. Then there's people like me who are like, no, but it's good to think there's hope. It's good to think that there's a hope other than, than the one hope of worlds. But anyway, you're a scholar, so I'll let you get there on your own. It's a long road to Jerusalem. All right, talk to you later.